Has everything that Blizzard achieved in the past decades been just absolutely luck and zero skill involved? Well, it's starting to look like it, honestly, because we have now had literally tens of ex-senior Blizzard devs in high positions that said, I don't like where Blizzard is going, this is not my spiel, this is not my thing, and then they go off and they do their own thing, and it's an absolute disaster. Today, it's Stormgate. Multiple millions literally burned on nothing but a shitty version of StarCraft. And if you don't know what Stormgate, it doesn't really matter too much. It looks like a cartoon with the completely wrong aesthetics. And granted, listen, I'm gonna be real. If a game looks like a cartoon, that's not the worst thing in my opinion. As long as you make the aesthetics fine, it's nice. But Stormgate was a cartoon-looking game that had completely the wrong aesthetic, okay? Its aesthetic was serious, futuristic, demonic, and blah 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 alien. You can't make that look like a cartoon. So just on that front, Stormgate was a disaster. And do you know what's the main mechanic of Stormgate? Because you know every single like other RTS game needs to be different from StarCraft and World of Warcraft, so they're not the same, right? So they all have some kind of stupid gimmick. Stormgate's gimmick was, you guessed it, called the Stormgate, or actually multiple ones of them. And those were those were structures in the middle of the map that you could take, fight over, and if you win, you get like a super strong unit that does stuff and things. Now, if you pause this video and think over what I just said, you're probably going to come to the conclusion that that is the most autistically redundant and stupid mechanic that you have literally ever heard in your life. Because it effectively rewards aggression, which means that you know, if you're an RTS player, that means you don't have that many strategies available to you. Because if you go aggro, you're always gonna be rewarded with the Stormgate. Two, if you fight over the Stormgate, win, aka you pretty much decimate your opponent's army. Here's a unit that's stronger than everything that you have currently, and you can just use it now to win the game. So yeah, the concept of Stormgate by default was blatantly autistic and not practical in reality. So yeah, no wonder this game crashed and burned.
This one pains me, but the news is the news and I gotta report it, and I've got to start with a quote. The bottom line is, the release was undercooked. Now, those are the words of Stormgate CEO Tim Morton, and they're honestly kind of damning. You see, Stormgate peaked at 1,000 concurrent players.
Hey, hey, better than South of Midnight, and that is counted as a AAA release from Xbox. So you know, maybe it didn't do that bad
After the full launch, but that was down from 3,000 during early access. And another thing that's down is user reviews. And they've never really been up, because they've never made it far beyond 50% positive.
Oof, that's bad. Ouch, I am not buying this.
It's quite brutal, and it's a sad state for one of gaming's most prominent ex-Blizzard teams. Like, this was supposed to be the new RTS from...
Look at these dudes. Are all of them StarCraft 2? A former production director on StarCraft 2 and Command and Conquer Generals 2. Was CC Generals 2 good? I don't remember. I don't play Command and Conquer game. Wait, no. Command and Conquer. No, I do play Command and Conquer. I just don't know the game names. Because they turned after shit really fast. I always play Traveler 769 or something like that. 67. Because mind control, sell your opponent's buildings. It was pretty fucking lit. Okay? Or what was the Hand of Nod? And Bike Crush someone? Oh god, those were good times, boys. Those were fucking good times. Man, Bike Rush was so overpowered, honestly. I enjoyed it. Former game director at Wastelands 3, no idea what that is. Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne, StarCraft. Former senior program manager at Blizzard Esports.
Ex-Blizzard teams.
Artist at Diablo 4. Why the fuck did you hire him?
Like, this was supposed
StarCraft 2.
to be the new RTS
StarCraft, Warcraft, StarCraft.
Blizzard.
Yeah, and they made such garbage. It is actually quite hard to imagine this. Do you honestly think that StarCraft was just luck? Honestly, at this point, that StarCraft 2 was luck? Because, let's be real, the competition for your attention back when StarCraft 2 came out wasn't actually that big. And Blizzard was at the all-time high. If StarCraft, StarCraft 2 debuted today, even in its current stage where it has new races, new this, new that, story, campaign modes, and, you know, a whole bunch of stuff, would it actually be successful in the modern age? I have my doubts.
Talent. So the people who knew how to make StarCraft but were not being allowed to make more StarCraft. But now we've got the CEO painting a rather dire picture of how things went at his own company. One where the company is quite literally running out of steam. And here's his exact words, quote, "Stormgate has not been a commercial success, and though I'm extremely grateful for the players we have, companies run on capital." Now, to some, that statement will seem impossible because, hey, this company raised $40 million in funding. Rough truth is that $40 million will only get you so far, at least if your scope and your...
Hey, $30 million got us Clair Obscure Expedition 33. Oh, I'm sorry. Clair Obscure la Expeditions 33. No idea if that's Italian, but close enough.
ambition is what theirs was. But who the hell are these people anyway? So here's the story. Frost Giant launched...
Well, they're probably garbage if I had to place my money.
2020 with some serious pedigree. Tim Morton led production on StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void, and I've got to say, that expansion was a banger. And speaking of bangers, Tim Campbell designed the Frozen Throne Warcraft 3 campaign. One of the all-time greats in
Now that truly is a banger though.
Gaming. So with pedigree like that, their goal of making a worthy successor to those games feels somewhat reasonable. They wanted to make a truly great RTS, and they decided to build that using their own custom tools called Snowplay, and the plan followed StarCraft 2's eventual business model. You see, StarCraft 2 found success going free to play with its multiplayer, with paid campaign episodes, and then co-op stuff going on top of that. And of course, here with Stormgate, they were going to do that with an ongoing live service with skin sales and new heroes. And over 3 years, they raised $35 million from private investors. Then came...
Wait. I think we could actually save the real-time strategy genre, but by changing it. I have a couple of ideas. Leave down in the comments if you think they're good. And by the way, like the video right now, and I'll hype it up if you're on a mobile device. It takes less than a second. I greatly appreciate all of you who do. You truly help out me a lot, and it means something. So thank you. And if you think the stuff that we talk about here is important, you obviously do, right? Then definitely like the video right now and hype it up. And thank you for everyone who does it. But I think we can actually save the RTS genre, but by making it less annoying. Real-time strategy, I think, has a lot of fucking bloat, okay? It requires you to have like 200 APM for bullshit tasks. How about we make an RTS where you make workers, well, I call them workers, but that's like a placeholder, and they're invulnerable and they constantly get you production value, okay? Where more emphasis is actually on microing and creating combinations of units to deal with what your opponent is doing and things like that. Where it's a game of chess, effectively, not just, oh, I press attack move better than you at the late game, or, you know, my strategy accidentally is better than your strategy, or I have 200 APM, you have 50, I win instantaneously. I think that are things that you can improve about these games, but I think you need to cut a lot of the old things that made RTSs good.
the Kickstarter. Not to finish the game, mind you. No, the campaign was meant to fund special editions and a pre-launch beta. That led to another $1.2 million in public funding before the launch. And everything really was teed up for success. I saw the hype amongst some creators, and then their Steam Next Fest demo kind of exploded. It was the second most played. So with all that, you'd
Yeah, look at this. It's like, this is fucking discount StarCraft, right?
think they would be teed up for a perfect early access launch. Of course, the reality is they were not. Those who thought the Next Fest success would translate to something huge were actually right. Early access was huge. It was a huge disaster. And one review summed it up perfectly. Quote, "You can take the developer out of Blizzard, but you can't take the Blizzard out of the developer."
Ouch.
That must have stung for the team, but it didn't come out of nowhere. You see, audiences thought they pre-ordered everything at launch, but it turns out they hadn't, because there was a new $10 hero voiced by Simu Liu. That there was an extra purchase was a surprise, but then
Wait, Simu Liu, I remember that name, but I don't know who he is.
GameStar pointed out another problem. Frostgiant had actually messed up in Kickstarter and didn't even realize it. Their FAQ had promised people, quote, all Year Zero heroes. This was present on the expanded backer tiers, but someone on the team just deleted that line after Frostgiant had already promised a new paid hero for all backers. So yes, that felt bad. Sentiment soured fast. And unfortunately, the game itself didn't help. People thought the art and design side of things was generic. I think they went stylized in a way that not all of their audience appreciated. Some design
Yeah, again, look at this. Are you gonna tell me this does not look like a cartoon?
elements were found to be underwhelming, as was the writing. There was a short campaign with no offline skirmish mode at launch. That again would have been rough. There was no mod support in day one, and plenty of quality of life issues. Obviously, it was early access. I wouldn't necessarily expect all of those things to be perfect, but it was just that the overall picture didn't feel like something cohesive. And that's the challenge of getting early access right. Yes, it's not the full game, but it still needs to feel like a cohesive thing because people are actually paying money for it. So the early access launch didn't deliver success, but investor Bitcraft led a new funding round to push the team toward their full launch. And April 2025 brought a complete rework of the early access content. Unfortunately, the player numbers did not budge, which again must have been crushingly depressing if you were on that dev team. Of course, the sentiment did not raise up either, and the 1.0 launch that came in August 2025 did not turn things around either. So in short,
if I left Blizzard and made a game like that, I would be begging Blizzard to hire me back. I'm not gonna lie, boys. I would be begging Blizzard, take me back.
The public life of this game is not great. And now, as players are debating whether or not the game is even dead, the CEO has been delivering a month-long postmortem. CEO Tim Morton published 5 blogs on LinkedIn, and they were all about the failure of Stormgate. In every single one, he blames himself for everything that happened. So let's go through these things chronologically. He started by discussing the state of the industry, quite simply saying that audiences demand higher quality than ever before, and it's not just the audience.
You know how you know that this guy's out of touch? Because he's fucking posting at LinkedIn, okay?
It's also investors when it comes to their expectations for the funding that they provide. Then he dove into the RTS genre problem. You see, Stormgate was built...
Do you want to bet that guy looked at everyone's LinkedIn profile before hiring them? And that if you didn't have a LinkedIn profile, you could not even get hired?
Things they learned from StarCraft. And here's what they knew. Campaign players were your biggest audience, but competitive players, well, they were the ones who drove the conversation. Meanwhile, co-op was essential for bringing in new players. The problem? You'd need to hit all 3 modes to truly succeed as an RTS in the modern market. And of course, even StarCraft 2 could not justify a sequel with its revenue, even after it had actually implemented those 3 pillars. Now, Tim Morton says that now he understands that splitting focus was in fact a mistake. They thought they needed to have all of those things to basically make the flywheel work, to get the network effects on their side. But obviously the result is that, quote, every single mode fell short of player expectations. That's obviously quite bad.
Ouch.
What about the aesthetic problems, though? Well, he basically blames trying to please everyone. There's a little bit of a catch with that. He cites analyst revenue figures for recent successful RTS games, and the third post took aim at a Windows Central article. Now, basically, that article looked at Steam user reviews showing disappointment across early access, and it suggested that Morton somewhat ignored that players didn't like Stormgate. And he kind of objects pretty strongly here. He agrees that the release was undercooked and that it was his fault. He says he didn't give his team enough time, and he points to StarCraft's 7-year development before Wings of Liberty, or other games like Expedition 33 or Silksong. I mean, like we said in our Silksong video, imagine never having to worry about funding and just the job being to ship the game whenever it's right. That's where the StarCraft team had been. But of course, Tim Morton's job was to worry about the funding, because he wasn't Blizzard Entertainment anymore. He didn't have Warcraft money. And the financial side is where the Kickstarter bit them again. Quote, Stormgate is fully funded.
Well, to be absolutely fair, I'll just remind everyone that Warcraft money isn't really a big deal, because a single $100 Longboy outsold the Wings of Liberty in terms of profits in a fucking week.
To release. That was the campaign promise. According to Morton, Frost Giant meant the game becoming available in early access. By that, not the actual full game. You see, early access is when the monetization would start, and therefore would start keeping the game alive, hence $10 heroes at launch. Now obviously, players expected release to mean version 1.0. He also touched on the changed FAQ, saying that a team member's, quote, inexperience led to them to just delete that line. Obviously, players got angry, that created a adversarial relationship with fans, and some then started to forensically analyze Frost Giant for proof of wrongdoing or any trouble, which of course is going to generate more stories that aren't necessarily good ones for the company. And of course now, Stormgate is in trouble. Morton was already talking about layoffs to Bloomberg immediately after launch. Following that and these blogs, someone then asked him a fairly direct question. The question is this: is there a team working on the game? And here's his response, quote,
No.
Some work continues, but the only real path forward is through partnership. Stormgate has not been a commercial success, and though I'm extremely...
I mean, imagine barely admitting that your game is a commercial failure, considering you sold roughly less than 40k copies. Imagine that.
Extremely grateful for the players we have. Companies run on capital. So yeah, he's going to need a big old injection of money. Now, in the minds of some players, well, this is a confusing situation, and for a fairly simple reason: $40 million. How do you fail when you have $40 million? Okay, first thing to understand, Frost Giant rode the COVID investment wave where, like with many other veteran developers, they just got showered with cash early on. By that I mean $4.7 million in 2020, another $5 million in 2021, and then $25 million in 2022. Now, all that funding was built on a bet. That bet being that the industry thought, it would pay off, right? That's why money was being heaped in. Frost Giant was valued at potentially being worth $150 million when Stormgate released. Again, I wonder what their definition of release is.
Wait, what? What? Oh my god, this is why I'm telling you that all of these industries fucking work on just pixie dust, okay? We have not had the pixie dust conversation for a while, but stocks are pixie dust. They literally are based off of literally nothing. And so is this shit, it seems like. So, how the hell do you get an evaluation of 150 million but you haven't done anything? Like, that is wild, okay? That is as wild as it gets. Like, how? How do you get that evaluation like that? That is wild, okay? That is the same that I go bake a shit in my bathroom and then someone pays me 20k for it and I already flushed it and they don't mind. That's the same situation. Dude, finance on this scale is just such a joke. The only real thing about finance at this point, I'm pretty convinced when it comes to business finance, is the fact that everyone with a brain starts drooling when they hear the magical words future military applications. Okay, that's the only thing that actually has any real value nowadays.
$50 million when Stormgate released. Again, I wonder what their definition of release is, because if they meant early access, then it certainly ain't worth $150 million. But here's the problem. The industry Stormgate was pitched in, well, it's not the industry Stormgate was released in. And that's not just some trite remark. You see, if investment had have continued at that scale, then Stormgate would have actually had a AAA budget, would have been humongous. And that
By the way, how stupid this game even is. If you have never seen it, where can we see it actually?
Remark. You see, if investment had...
Okay, so this is like one of the units of one of the 3 playable races, right? This is basically a marine. But in the game, from the top, their marine unit looks like it just has a giant sword on its back. You think it's a melee unit and then suddenly it starts to shoot. I mean, you cannot have shit like that in a game. It's never gonna work.
If continued at that scale, then Stormgate would have actually had a AAA budget, would have been humongous. And that was actually the game that they started building. But here's the thing with early stage company funding, right? If you want to get a lot more money in, you do need to have quite a big, bold vision that you will credibly pull off. This team obviously had loads of things that would suggest they were credibly the people to do this job. But obviously, investment trends...
Being bald or balding doesn't make you the man for the job, okay?
...really did change. And I suppose they could have been left with this humongously scoped, very expensive game, but not really the revenue runway to pull it off. I mean, just for a second, think about this. Their plan was a game truly of Blizzard's scale, right? Campaign, co-op, map editor, multiplayer, like loads of community tournament features, and all of that at a high level of graphical fidelity. Because of course, this was meant to be a new modern game in the StarCraft style. Not just that, it was meant to be basically the spiritual successor. That's a hell of a lot of work. That's the type of lofty ambition that can get you a lot of funding. And in the early days, that worked. They were building to a big scale. I mean, just look at the credits. There are 120 plus names who are in direct development roles on this game. Plus, of course, the supporting structures like publishing teams, voice actors.
I mean, I would be surprised, honestly, if this wasn't a failure. But anyway, that was Billiard, 10 out of 10. Again, you can take the Blizzard, you can take the developer out of Blizzard, but you can't take the Blizzard out of developer. That is so true. But in Bobby, original, Hardar, N-word, Kotick, we trust. He is the true G of our generation, okay? Bobby, we need you back, brother. Save Blizzard. Have a nice day. Bye.